Welcome everybody, and I am BisuDagger. I'm going to be casting the DanJJING Star League Season 3. This is going to be the round of 8, so we're in the bracket stages. Skipping through that round of 24, round of 16, just going straight into the one-on-one matches, no group stages here. Well, you know, coming out of this, BeSt has done pretty well. He actually got seeded into the round of 16, and then he won his group 2-0, defeating Rush and Mong, I believe. And then on the other side, we have Mind, who went, I believe, 3-1 because he did have to qualify through the round of 24. So that is an extra stage that he had to advance through. But when he got into the round of 16, he had to play Stork. And I think that Stork is still relatively weak. And so Mind lost to Stork. But then he had a redemption match against Stork in the final game to advance out of his group 2-1. And yeah, so this is a really good spot. I believe Mind also beat Shuttle. So Mind obviously spawning down at the bottom right-hand corner of this map. And then we're going to have BeSt, who has spawned at the top right. And I'm very excited to see both these players outside of the Africa Star League, because I think that players do perform very differently in these online matches versus the offline matches. And I haven't seen that spark from Mind or BeSt in the ASL. And I think both those players, like Mind, he did really well back in the day, winning, I believe, the Kongdu Star, maybe it was the Advanced Star League, way back in the day. That was several years ago now. And then BeSt, he also has really only performed well in the offline leagues. He hasn't gone too far. He has had some round 4 appearances, but that's about it. We know that BeSt has the potential as a Protoss player to defeat the top Terrans. But it seems that his skill can't translate into the other matchups well enough for him to get into the finals or finally get that gold that has been so elusive to him. Mind is bringing out his SCV towards the middle of the map, just a generic scout towards the middle, make sure nothing's there. If he ran into a worker, a building, whatever, get him a lot of information. But instead, he's just going to send that scout up towards the top right. So it's been over a year, or almost a year, since I've casted StarCraft, so I really hope that you guys can catch me a break as I try and get back into the rhythm of this game. So look at that, the assimilator is going to be going down on the geyser of mines, and that's going to be just a nuisance as it's going to delay gas even further. And sometimes when you see that on a different map, I think like Fighting Spirit, you could think it's possible that BeSt is going to try and go for this 2-gate, very aggressive build before he even tries to expand. But instead, you see that he is still sitting on just 1 gate and hasn't even taken a gas. But he's come with an early aggressive Zealot. And so this Zealot, I don't see it doing a lot. Despite there being 2 ramps, it's actually not too terrible to defend against a single Zealot here. And even with potentially 1 more Zealot, I think, coming down to the ramp, I think that Mind should have a good time defending against this. Losing 1 Marine, that is pretty crucial, that probe getting a lot of damage off, but here comes the next Zealot. Still, it's kind of cramped around that ramp. There's a supply depot that's in a good spot for these Marines to bounce back and forth. And so what has BeSt really done other than kind of take away from the attention, the economic focus that Mind wants? I think that this is just going to be a massive waste of Zealots. 200 minerals lost, and now potentially 3 if he does lose the Zealot here. Trying to push in, not an advantageous position up the ramp. And you know what? Mind was already planning on expanding anyway. He got his gas at the second base, and because of the way the map is designed, he can actually catch up on gas pretty quickly because he could just drop down that other refinery right away. So not a big deal. I think that Mind is still in a really good position, and BeSt has delayed his expansion in order to do this early harassment. So I think that if anything, that BeSt kind of hurt himself slightly economically. But it's okay. I think that's both just mind games in the early stages. Look at these Marines. They're relatively weak at the front. I think this is just a faux push right now, and that there's no way that Mind is really going to try and take this seriously and engage with those Marines. Several units heading down from BeSt. I want to see the configuration here. It's probably, yeah, it's got to be all Zealots, because remember, he took his gas super late, so he's not going to really have Dragoons to help him out, and he's not going to be able to work towards advancing that tech that you want to see Protoss working towards. I guess one thing that BeSt doesn't have to worry about, because he took a later gas, is that with the gas block, he knew that the factories wouldn't be done, and so he's not going to have to deal with a vulture threat. One of the ways that Mind has to bring himself back very quickly is that mid-game tech, and so that's why he's going to these 2 factories right away. And he's not just going one factory and trying to save those resources to go into machine shop upgrades. Of course, they will be critical, and I am curious to see if he is even going to bother with the vulture upgrades, potentially mines. Knowing that BeSt has primarily Zealots, mines are pretty great defensively early on here. But this is very interesting. So we're seeing the starport come down, and I think that this is going to lead towards dropship play, and dropships are going to be very important for Mind, who actually has pretty good dropship play over the past years against Protoss players. It has been pretty impressive. It's one of his maybe stronger points and an overall weaker matchup for him. So the Zealots are heading back. So I just love this this ping pong of units. We're seeing, 6 Marines come up, then pull back, 3 Zealots go down, then pull back. So no player really is going to be proposing a threatening position at this point in the game. We do see a tank come out, so I'm going to just believe that we're going to see siege mode first and a defensive tank on the high ground if, for whatever reason, BeSt happens to get some units out and get aggressive. I just don't think that off these 2 bases in the next minute or 2, we're going to be seeing anything too crazy. But you never know. There could be a strong biotank push. Oh man, I'm just still thinking about these Fighting Spirit days where the tank bio pushes, when you have the horizontal spawns, you can get to those tank bio pushes so quickly on your opponent's ramp. I think that, I wonder if a Wraith is going to come out here. Yes, so Wraith is going to come out, which is going to give him the high ground vision and allow him to push and get a good position on the ramp. So this is going to be very interesting here. The Wraith not only going to be able to defend if there was a shuttle. Oh, and I think maybe he was looking for that observer and could have scanned and killed it if he was able to catch it in time. But that's okay. This Wraith is going to just give some beautiful high ground vision as Mind tries to push in with his bio tank composition. The observer is out. It's obviously going to lend way to being able to see those tanks and maybe get some farther shots than usual with the Dragoons on the high ground. Because there is that level of missing, this is going to be really important too. Can he catch this straggler tank? This is good because he needs to cut off the reinforcements. That's the most important thing. If he can defend on the ramp and also cut off reinforcements, he can win this engagement. And it looks like even though the Dragoon, oh man, with that bunker done, if the Marines get inside that bunker, this is going to be a really tough position for BeSt. Again, like I said, this is a very Fighting Spirit-esque type timing push at that 8-minute mark sitting on that ramp. But I think the damage was really good with these high ground Dragoons. This is one of the advantages that you have in this map compared to Fighting Spirit, is that you have the high ground to defend against for your natural and your main, instead of sitting low on that natural open territory area. So unfortunately, Mind is just going to have to back up, and he is going to end up losing that push. Now, if we take everything into consideration, he pumped out a lot of Marines and even a Wraith to focus on this small early to mid game push, which means that Mind didn't get to really tech up, and he doesn't have a strong mech army because he used his food and resources into going for bio. Meanwhile, BeSt, he's still in a pretty good position because you can float on Zealots and Dragoons for quite a while here, but the most important thing here was that he took a 3rd base. But unfortunately, he's not able to defend it very well, losing quite a few probes, but not as many as I think that Mind could have capitalized on. I would have expected all of those probes to have died. And the fact that even 6 of them got away is hugely important for BeSt. Now, BeSt, he needs to be able to macro off this 3rd base to stay ahead of his Terran opponent. I wonder if Mind is thinking expansion behind this aggressive push. But I just love the damage that he's putting out. You see, he got those tanks on the high ground too. I believe even that second one may be considered high ground. But it's important about that hit ratio to be able to hit those units in an optimal manner. Ah, okay, maybe it was considered low. But mind, he loses his tanks. He loses that push. The probes could be transferred back. It looks like, what, more vultures are coming in? Oh, now the big reveal from the observer pointing out that carrier tech is going to be coming out on the map. So it does look like there are vultures here. The vultures kind of glitch out. They don't get the mines out properly. You really have to babysit those vultures when you're trying to put the mines on the map. So now I think that we are going to see possibly a dropship. Yes, the dropship already came out. The dropship, wow. Okay, so this was a little bit late by the observer, but it looks like probes are pulled by the time we are able to see that this drop is occurring. The vulture, I want to see how many kills that vulture has. Looked like pretty decent damage. And the dragoons are trying to head out on the map, maybe block off any advancing vultures. Try and catch them off guard one more time. But it's going to be all about this dropship play again. And I think that Mind is going to be in for an unpleasant surprise if he doesn't prepare himself well for the carriers. This is a waste of dragoons from BeSt. I do not like that he pushed those 5 dragoons in. But he does pull them back. He's transferring more probes over to that third base. And he's in a really nice situation now as the interceptors are starting to be developed. +1 air weapons is going to be on the way also. So looking back in here, there's not a lot of factories and an engineering bay coming up. Okay, so another factory. I really want to see Mind at 6 factories. That is hugely important. 6 factories of non-stop Goliath production is sufficient at this time for him to be able to deal with the carrier threat. Now he's got to know, because there aren't a huge amount of units, that there is this possibility of carriers. That could be the signal, but he hasn't had a lot of vision. So Mind, this is his opportunity to get a lot of vision, and there's a ton of vultures on the ground, but they're basically a large distraction. Can he distract BeSt well enough so that these dropships can go into a good location? Oh, he's just going to get the tanks there very fast. He's going to circumvent this army that's on the ground for BeSt, and the tanks are going to get on the high ground. You know what? The shield is only just half recharged at this point, but there's no anti-air, so these carriers are going to be revealed, but just in time. Are they going to keep the Nexus alive? That Nexus is getting so low, even the Vulture is doing their bit to throw in the health damage. And it looks like the Nexus will go down. This is a big hit on BeSt's economy, but he's primarily fueling off minerals right now anyway. Slow production of carriers means not much gas is going to be required. Minerals only. And I think that he's going to be okay pushing out with 4 carriers. Can he find a map presence that puts Mind in a worse predicament? Because right now, with all these Goliaths coming out, this is going to be really, really bad for BeSt. I think that there's too much time for Mind to develop a mech army that is sufficient against this carrier threat. I think if BeSt didn't lose this base and then possibly started to work towards additional later tech, such as maybe a few High Templars, then he would be in a really good situation. But losing that base is such an economic hit. You're seeing those long-distance mining probes, and that is tough. Meanwhile, so look at the left side while all this is going on. There is a presence of blue. And is Mind going to advance over to the left side? Because that becomes just the apex of this late game map battle. And is Mind going to try and take that earlier to establish himself? Right now, he's just got to hold on. This is get everything into the right location and make sure those Goliaths can defend the base at all odds. There's not a ton of turrets here. It's going to be a huge reliance of Goliaths to be able to deal with this. All right. What's the damage here? You saw that he took a lot of hits from that turret just to take out a supply depot. He didn't force the SCVs off that mineral line, although that main base is being so heavily mined by SCVs right now. It's kind of crazy. The scan comes down one more time. He sees that there's low defenses and the Vultures are going to try and move in. They will be able to get across this photon cannon and start doing tons of damage. No units are over here to defend. The Dragoons are taking the long walk back to try and help this out. Meanwhile, the carriers are going to try and push in towards this natural base location. The Goliaths look like they're a little bit out of position as Mind was heavily trying to focus on taking out those probes. I think that this is Mind's game to lose. Just the economic damage, the harassment, how well he's been playing here. If he can continue to defend against these carriers, this game is going to be his. He's got that third base. He's been mining from it for a long time. The economic advantage should be really good at this point in the game. And look at that, even the assimilator not being mined from right now. BeSt has got to buckle down and focus. Can he pull units out of his hat? The miracle of him being able to make units out of nothing is just so marvelous. But can BeSt do it right now? Supply tied 156, now to 158 for Mind. The APM just in that top 200 tier range. And both these players are just ready to pounce on top of each other. The turrets are a great deterrent right now. It seems that that BeSt has not moved into those turrets very effectively, and the micro has to be spot on. Okay, so what's coming on the left side here? It looks like a random unit moving over. I wonder if Mind is ready to take an additional fourth base. He really needs to focus on getting that expansion and trying to get himself in the base race further ahead. Meanwhile, these two dropships, again, if they do have tanks inside of them, it's possible that there could be another Nexus takedown. And again, I guess this is one way to get ahead of bases, is to take down bases of your opponent instead of growing bases of yourself. BeSt tries to take another expansion over at the 3 o'clock position. This is a really good spot, to be honest, because he's going to be constantly flowing units down in that direction. But again, because Mind also wants to be attacking northward, he may be taking that expansion at the 4 o'clock. Oh, it looks like the Nexus got taken out for BeSt. That's not very good for him, but he's got a lot of carriers now. He's got ground unit support. And can he take on any of these engagements head-to-head? I need to see a Goliath get clicked on right now. What is the upgrade situation? A command center is coming down over on the left. That's where I was expecting the expansion for Mind to be, is over at that 8 o'clock position. It's really, really far away, and it stretches the army of BeSt so well. So I think it's a great, great expansion if Mind can get away with it. So much damage coming from these interceptors. It doesn't look like at the tipping point of that natural base is there a lot of the turrets have been taken out, so there's not a lot of defenses here. The Goliaths have to battle through getting through all those factories, kind of the congestion of the main, the natural location also, and the Goliaths aren't getting there very quickly. This is just tough. You're almost stuck on this island for Mind, and he can't navigate around the island because the Terran bases are so tough, not on just the shaggy unit AI of the Goliath, but the fact that they're big, bulky units against big, bulky buildings. If only they could burrow into the ground, right? So you can see the interceptors just swarming like crazy on the mini-map. I really love seeing all the interceptors just being dispensed on top of this mech army. Can BeSt hold on here against the mech push? It looks like the Goliaths, taking this high ground. They've got their range on the missiles, and they're doing very well against the interceptors. They're just eating them up, and it looks like at this point, BeSt has to start regaining those interceptors. Here he comes out, another push. The Dragoon's not doing a lot of damage on the ground. I would love to see a single shuttle out here to just at least try and drop some zealots on those tanks. But it's a danger to try and drop the shuttle, use the shuttle to drop because of all the Goliaths. Which is really why I guess it's not too viable. Well, it looks like the mech army has been just chewed up. And a monumental defense here for BeSt to be able to hold on to that Nexus. I believe that Nexus is still alive, which means that he can transfer probes over and start mining from a nice, fresh, new base. What a relief for the Protoss player. Meanwhile, that command center did finish over at the left. It's floating its way over to the mineral lines over there. And he's pretty much mined out his main base, so he's got to get that expansion. He's got to move over there. Remember, we're watching the DanJJING Star League, Season 3, Round 8. This is Day 1. It is BeSt versus Mind, Game 1. So the score is 0-0 so far, but who's going to take the lead? I think that BeSt, because he just did that huge defense, might be in a superior position now. It's all about can Mind mine from that fourth base. Can he actually get an extra base up and running? The carrier count is getting critical, though. And what I saw in that entire fight, despite all the interceptors getting killed off, interceptors are easy to replace. Cheap, cheap money. But those carriers are very crucial, and not many of them got taken down. Ah, look at that. The shield damage on that carrier, almost catching one in the health, but it can be pulled back. It's almost at this point where I wonder if putting down a shield battery or two at that 3 o'clock base would be good for BeSt, so he could rejuvenate the shields on his carriers. The shield battery is just one unit, one building in the Protoss arsenal that I've been looking into more and more as something that can really supplement these late game armies in a more efficient manner. But you can see here, let's go back to the main battle as the Hellfire missiles do so much damage on those interceptors. They really eat them up. And that command center getting killed off is huge for BeSt. So BeSt has really cut off the additional health line or the supply line for Mind. So without those incomes coming from the minerals and that gas over there, I think that Mind now may be in more of a checkmate position. He's got a long distance mine potentially. He's not getting the income that he needs to produce Goliaths at the rate that required to defend against these carriers. So I think that we're slowly seeing the checkmate appear. And this is really smart, just throwing him one DT at a time to burn through those scans is going to be hugely important because, well, mine doesn't have too many comsat stations. And at the cost of maybe 6, I was going to say at the cost of maybe like 6 DTs, he could burn through all those scans. But that's going to be it. GG. Mind ends up losing. A great hold by BeSt to win game number 1. And game number 2 will be on the next video. So guys, hang tight. Thank you for watching.